Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Revere School Committee. Please rise to salute the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call of the members.
Mrs. Bronson Rizzo,
Present.
Mr. Ferranti,
Here.
Mrs. Gravelisi,
Here.
Mr. Kingston,
Here.
Mrs. Milbury Ellis,
Here.
Ms. Ty,
Here.
Mayor Arrigo.
Here. We'll start tonight off with recognition. Dr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So each year, we have a real honor to recognize some of our students who perform far and above their peers in our schools. And we're able to give them an award from the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents, which is a pretty prestigious honor. There's only a couple given out in each district across the Commonwealth. So only about 600 kids out of the over 100,000 kids in the Commonwealth actually get this award each year. And I'm really pleased to be able to award it to 3 students, 2 of them from Revere High School and 1 of them from City Lab. And we're just so proud of all of the work that these students have done. And I'm going to tell you just a little bit about them as I call them up. And then I'll do them one at a time. And I'm going to ask the students if they want to go to the microphone and just say a few words about what you're planning for yourself and your future. And just share that with everybody at home. That would be great. So I'm going to start with Kathy Tren. Kathy's guidance counselor tells me that she's a remarkable young woman who has achieved great things at Revere High School. This past summer, she was selected to the prestigious Northeastern Young Scholars Program, where she had the opportunity to conduct, analyze, and present research to Northeastern faculty. She has worked as a counselor for Revere Parks and Recreation while remaining involved at Revere High School as a member of the swim team, the tennis team, the math team, the feminist empowerment movement, and the student government. She has served as the STEM Center and Writing Center Fellow, helped her peers in math, science, and writing. At the conclusion of high school, she will have completed 8 advanced placement courses while earning the distinction of AP Scholar with honors for her exemplary performance. She is a member of the National Spanish Honor Society and the National Honor Society. Kathy currently holds the highest GPA in the senior class of 2023. Congratulations, Kathy.
So I just say a few words about my post-high school.
Sure.
Right. So I want to go to college 4 years, or maybe even more, and I want to major in neuroscience and computer science. Whether that's a double major or a major and a minor, I'm not completely sure of yet, but all that I know is that I want to study the brain, and I want to be able to apply that, in any discipline I choose to pursue.
Next, I would like to introduce everybody to Jocelyn Sanchez Mendez. Her teachers have said that it's with great pride that City Lab High School nominates Jocelyn Ziamora Sanchez Mendez as the recipient of the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents Academic Excellence Award. Jocelyn joined us as an upperclassman this school year. From the moment she walked through the door, we knew that she would flourish in her new learning environment. She's outgoing and articulate, even though she does hesitate to speak in front of a group because she worries about that she will stutter, like I keep doing right now. As a result of her motivation and commitment to education, Jocelyn is now on a path to graduate with the class of 2023. In her application, she stated that she wanted to write more and express herself better. She's now duly enrolled at Benjamin Franklin BFIT English college level coursework, and she is a shining star. Jacelyn is able to effectively communicate and participate in discussions with her City Lab peers, as well as her other BFIT classmates. After reviewing Jacelyn's past academic history, it appears that Jacelyn has found her place. She is present and participating in her classes every day. She works well with others and appears happy to be here. We're so very happy that Jacelyn chose City Lab. Congratulations.
Before I came to the school, I didn't want to go to college. And now that I started going to Benjamin, I have decided I do want to go to college and pursue an architecture career. And I just want to thank the opportunity for going there. Thank you.
And last but definitely not least, I want to introduce everybody to Christy Lee. Christy is an incredible student and profound artist. She has many talents, including drawing and sketching. Christy has been involved in numerous activities at the school and local community. In July of 2022, she attended the National Student Leadership Conference at Johns Hopkins University, exploring mechanical, electrical, and other forms of engineering. Most recently, she completed the Northeast Metro Tech vocational programs, acquiring advanced skills in Photoshop, Illustrator, and other Adobe Suite programs. Christy earned the AP Scholar Award, earning a 5 on 3 AP exams. She received the City of Revere Certificate of Appreciation for coordinating charitable drives during the COVID-19 pandemic. Christy works at the Revere Youth in Action program, creating a high school level ethnic studies curriculum. Christy is a leader in the feminist empowerment movement, an e-board graphic designer for the Asian American Student Association, and a member of the MGH Youth Scholars Program. She has even painted murals at Revere High School, which have beautified the hallways. Christy is an amazing student and person. Congratulations, Christy.
My plans for life after high school, I plan to go to college for 4 years, and I'm interested in studying engineering or public health, not sure yet, but I definitely want to continue being involved in the community and finding ways to help other people. And I just want to say a quick thank you to my mom and all my other family members for all their support, and of course all the Revere teachers who helped me ever since I was little and like going through the education system. Thank you.
Any members? Mrs. Rizzo?
I just want to say I feel so unintelligent now after you three came up, but I am so impressed by the clubs you're in, by the actions you've taken, and the young ladies that you are. Thank you so much for coming to Revere Public Schools. Really appreciate it.
Ms. Milbury Ellis?
Sure, I just want to offer my congratulations to you three, and I imagine you will all do wonderful things with your lives after high school. I hope that you come back to the city and give back to the community and put your talents to good use in making our community better. Good luck.
Guy?
It is certainly a wonder to see three just so remarkable girls here. I call you girls. You're women at a very young age. You and the fact that you are interested in empowerment for women, of course, does my heart good. And I assume everybody else is here too. It is astounding how many people we have who are so brilliant and who enhance our lives in such a wonderful way. I can't tell you how much joy there is for us, I'm sure, here in taking pride in what you have done. And so I thank you very much for bringing that pride to the Revere Public Schools and to this city. And I hope this will be your city throughout a good part of your life. But I'm sure you will be traveling around the world and doing wonderful things wherever you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tai. Any other members? Nope, we're going to take a 2-minute recess. Okay, we're back from recess, and we are on to item number 3 on our calendar, the consent calendar.
Motion to accept the consent calendar?
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Rizzo, seconded by Ms. Gravellisi. Roll call.
Mrs. Bronson Rizzo,
Yes.
Mr. Ferranti,
Yes.
Mrs. Gravellisi,
Yes.
Mr. Kingston,
Yes.
Mrs. Milbury Ellis,
Yes.
Ms. Ty,
Yes,
Mayor Arrigo.
Yes. Okay. Next item is the student representative report. Student advisory group introduction. Oh, Mrs. Rizzo.
No, go right ahead, Nicole. We had asked for the students for the student advisory group to come, and they're very busy people, very busy. Elney, as we have met last year, had something that came up. We have Nicole and Madison, and, oh my gosh, Rayhan and, help me. Santiago Betancourt. So I did ask for them to come to introduce. They were all chosen in the spring. And as I said at the meeting prior, Ms. Porter helped attract the students, asked students who would be interested, and we received the names of these 5 wonderful students. One is a senior, 2 are juniors, and 2 are sophomores. And right here we have Nicole De Silva, and I asked her if she could just come up and say a few words about herself and what she might want to see done as the student advisory group and perhaps our future student rep.
I did write a little something on my phone, so I wasn't just so I came prepared. So I want to start off with why I joined the group. So I want to be involved in our school's community, and I want to be able to help make changes to what our school needs, and to be able to represent the student body and help fulfill the ideas of my classmates. And what I think RHS students currently want right now is more representation in their cultures, and I think that's something that the student advisory group, us, need to work on figuring out what we can do, and bettering the school building and more opportunities and more classes. And to talk a little bit about myself, I am Nicole De Silva, as Ms. Rizzo said. I am a sophomore. I am currently the clubs that I'm currently a part of are my school student council. I am part of FEM. I also participate in Anime Club and Care Bears Club, which are some things I do enjoy that I want to also prioritize, doing things I enjoy, not just for the benefit of helping others, but also to have fun. I also am currently working with the Vision of the Graduate group, and that is something I'm currently doing. That's about it. That's all I had to say. Thank you for listening.
And I need to say thank you to Nicole. Her, Madison McQuado, they've attended the workshop for student rep, and they came in as 2 young freshmen, and let me tell you, they did not sit in the shadows of any of those seniors and juniors. They really blended in. They brought much information forward, and I'm hoping they got as much information to bring back. And there's many more workshops that they can attend, and they even started a Slack community. So hopefully that will help them do more communication with such busy lives that they have. I do have Rayhan also sent an email because he thought he was going to be here, and in the last minute he couldn't. He says, "My name is Rayhan Ahmed. I am currently a junior, and I have been in the Revere Public Schools since 7th grade. I went to Garfield Middle School for many years, 7th grade. I am currently the co-captain of the Revere High School Speech and Debate Team, and my main focus is public forum debate. Since 8th grade, I have been involved in the Student Council, both as a member and an elected official, because I believe that proper representation of students' ideas and input is a critical aspect in creating a community students will want to come back to every day and enjoy being in for extended periods of time. So, they have not chosen their representative. I will say, later on tonight, we are going to vote and hopefully vote to have 2 representatives so that if someone can't be here, the other one can come, or just moral support coming together. So hopefully that will go forward. But to tell you the truth, out of these 5, we're blessed. We have some great representation, and, you know, Nicole, I was just telling him, she's small, but she is one powerful young lady, and I'm really looking forward to the work that you're going to do. So I want to thank you and the rest of your group, and I can't wait to see how your student voice comes out for you and your peers. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rizzo. Thank you.
Any other members? Okay, we'll move on to the public speak portion of tonight's meeting. If any members of the public would like to speak, please step up. Seeing none, we'll move on to the superintendent report. Dr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few items. I want to begin by inviting our new Director of Health and Social and Emotional and Physical Wellness, Jill Herwig. And she is going to present some information for us on the results of the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. All right, Jill, this might be a chance. Can you, you're on the YouTube page, right? So. No, okay, we can go.
Okay, so, I'm here today just to share with everybody, oops, there we go. I'm new at this, sorry, like you mentioned, I'm new to right there. So first off, my name is Jill Herwig. I'm the new Director of Comprehensive Health and Wellness in the district. And my new role encompasses our adjustment counselors and social workers in the district, our nurses, and our health educators. So the Youth Risk Behavior Survey is very relevant to all the work that we do in this area. It pretty much drives a lot that we do. So I'm here today to share with you our 2021 results with our middle school and our high school students. Today I wanted to share with you just why we utilize the YRBS, the data collection, how we collected that data, our results for the middle school and high school level, and then the implications that this has for the work moving forward, as well as highlighting some of the things that are currently being done and utilized this year within the district. So to start, why YRBS? So basically, it helps us analyze current trends, our student trends, behaviors, health behaviors that our students are experiencing or participating in. It also helps us determine student needs. It helps us identify the behaviors that can impact student learning. So some of those barriers, whether it's addiction, whether it's substance use, whether it's mental health, whether it's even access to healthy foods and physical activity. And then looking at this data, then we use it to actually develop some of our multi-tiered systems of support. So some of those proactive measures to support students so that they don't maybe participate in unhealthy behaviors, or maybe some of those reactive systems as well, supporting students that maybe have some mental health concerns and whatnot. It also drives our health education curriculum in the district. There's so much that it can focus and encompass, but based on our YRBS data, that's how we design our curriculum and where we determine what are some essential needs for that curriculum. And we also, this is another way for us to develop and really kind of enhance our community and family resources, and reach out and figure out what we need to do or who we may need to reach out to and develop some relationships. So with the data collection, this is collected every 2 years. We do this in districts, they do this nationally, they do this at the state level. The national and state data is provided on the CDC website. You can look up any data from any school district that participates throughout the entire, oh, not school district, sorry, state that participates in the country. For us, we partnered with MGH, and MGH helped us roll out a model of these surveys that are utilized in Massachusetts in the Centers of Disease, CDC. So we administered the survey to our middle school and high school students. It's administered, like I mentioned, every year. In the spring, we did this. Normally, it is done typically in the spring. However, with COVID, we actually administered it last fall in 2021. So for this, we have a decent amount of sample size from both of our schools at the middle school and high school level to pull some data. So at our middle school level, the survey consisted of 89 questions encompassing all different realms from physical health to mental health to substance use. And 1,326 students participated, giving us almost 80% of our student population participating, which is huge, excellent, especially because it is self-driven data collection from these students. It's there, they have to log in, they have to answer it themselves. So kind of broke this survey down just to kind of point this out to you guys. The data is provided for us in hundreds of pages. And it's broken down by gender, it's broken down by ethnicity, it's broken down by grade level, it is broken down by even the school at the middle school level. So for this presentation, I just tried to keep it simple with male, female, and gender fluid students that identified as genderqueer in the presentation. But this data can be actually analyzed in so many different ways and is utilized in so many different ways with our health professionals, our social workers, and even the administration in the district. So to start with some of there's a lot of kind of positives that have come out of this data. Starting with our physical health. At the middle school level, 82% of our students say that they enjoy being physically active, which coming out of COVID, I think this is wonderful. This is something that we didn't see years ago. Also, we have about 33% of our students that participate in our community and organized sports within the district and within the city. And then 71% of our students said that they find it easy to be physically active. They have easy access. And then when we move into more physical health aspects, when it comes to healthy eating, 81% of our students actually say now that they enjoy eating healthy foods. They also, about 56% say it's easy to get healthy foods, so this may be something in the future to delve into. We'll talk about that, kind of the implications later on. And then when it comes to body weight, there is a little bit of a trend now that we're seeing that there's a little bit more body positivity than in future results from years ago, where we're seeing about 52% of our middle school students are saying that they feel like their body weight is about right. And we're seeing that only about 26% of students say that they're slightly overweight. Now, there were more options in those questions. However, these were the two areas that were the highest percentages. There was a slight amount that said that they felt like they were overweight, and a few that felt like they were underweight. So kind of wanted to highlight those because those are trends that we're seeing that are actually kind of moving in a more positive direction. Also, something that I wanted to highlight was the amount of sleep students are getting, which a lot of the times is looked at very negatively, like they don't get enough sleep, they're not in bed at a certain time. But about 62% of our students say that they get between 7 and 9 hours of sleep a night, which is kind of looking at that data may be surprising for some. Also, just kind of highlight some of the things that our students take on in their daily lives. 71% of our students do have responsibilities at home. They do have chores. They have things that they are at the middle school level that they are responsible for. Now moving into some more of the substance use kind of data, we have physical health. 61% of our students report that they actually talk with their parents about drugs, alcohol, and this was actually within the last year. So that the question asked, like, have you talked with your parents within the last year about alcohol and other substances? Another question that always comes up and kind of drives our health ed instruction and where we go is, why do you think kids use illegal substances? So at the middle school level, this has been consistent throughout the last few results, in the last few years. Middle school level kids normally report that they want to fit in. They think that kids use these things to fit in. And they also feel like students use these things because they feel sad or they're just lonely and they're looking for things to do. So these are kind of two trends that have been common. They also, again, drive where we develop our health instruction, whether it's, okay, what do we do and provide for students at the middle school level? They feel like they need to do this to fit in. What in our health ed instruction can help them feel like this isn't the case? Also, some numbers that are we're kind of questioning a little bit, and there's a lot to kind of question about this, is our vaping responses for these two surveys. Only 7% of our students reported that they ever vaped at the middle school level. In the last few years in trends, we're feeling like maybe this is a little higher, but on a positive, maybe it's not as high as we thought, as well as there are some things to consider, like is the student not maybe telling the truth, as well as maybe there may be misconceptions with reading the data and whatnot. 22% of our students have also reported that they've seen their peers vape. When it comes to nicotine products and mainly vaping products, the biggest commonality was about 32% of our students either get their nicotine products from a friend, borrowing from someone, or they give someone money at the middle school level to go have access to those things. When it comes to marijuana, again, this is another data point that seems a little lower compared to some of the perceptions that have been kind of common perceptions of teenagers just in our culture and society, but 3% of our students have reported that they've smoked marijuana at the middle school level, and 3% have identified that they've consumed edibles. So this data is kind of almost enlightening as an adult to see that. It's like, oh, okay, this is not as bad as we've always thought. When it comes to bullying, this is something that's been a focus in the district since I've been in the district over 11 years. At the middle school level, about 20% of our students say that they've been bullied online in the last year, and about 28% of students say that they've been bullied at school over the last year. Now, there's a little bit more deeper dive of data and stuff like that in the actual survey of like perceptions or support and whatnot, but just to kind of, for the sake of time, kind of keep this a little simple for everyone. So it's kind of looking at this as still like, how do we support these students that are experiencing that? On the positive side of it, in our surveys, 65% of students say that they have a trusted adult that they can go to outside of the school. And 56% of students say there's actually a trusted adult within the building. So it's not 100%, but it's an encouraging number to see that it's more than half of our students have someone in their lives that they feel like they can go to for certain things. Also to kind of note with this bullying questions, bullying was never clearly defined for students in the survey, so it's based on their perceived idea of what bullying is versus what our defined definition of bullying is for any type of legal concepts or whatnot. So like for something that we've utilized over the years in health education as bullying is considered, it needs to be repetitive, it needs to be on purpose, and it needs to be an abuse of power. But for some students, somebody just calling them a bad name, they might be like, it's bullying me. So this was a perceived piece of data. Lastly, and this is really what's driving a lot of our work this year, is in the realm of mental health with our middle school students. We're seeing, for me, these numbers should be 0, always, but we are seeing, with anticipation of COVID and coming out of some kind of situations where isolation and being alone and whatnot, we're seeing 33% of our middle school students are saying that they, in the past year, have felt sad or hopeless for 2 or more weeks. So meaning that this is something that's not just, I'm in a bad mood, but there's some more things maybe going on there. Also, the scary numbers for us are the 20% have actually considered maybe taking their own life. 12% of them have actually, that have reported that they've considered this, 12% have said they've actually thought of a plan, planned it out, which in the mental health world is that's the threshold of where is this person at risk. And then 13% of our students said they talked to an adult or a mental health professional about their thoughts. So for me, that number is very low. We need more access. We'll talk about it a little bit further after we go through the high school results, but high school results, similar, sharing some of the same data. I did include a little bit of technology with the high school results. At the middle school level, there was kind of no surprises. We kind of all know that kids have access to technology and they're on it a lot, so I figured some of that data would be very redundant for some people. Like, yep, we know our kids are on the phone a lot, but I wanted to include some middle school or high school data. So our high school students are reporting that 28% are reporting that they watch 2 to 5 hours of TV a day. Luckily, we also have 28% of our students that are actually participating in community sports and organized sports. But then, again, this is kind of no surprise for a lot of us, 49% of our students say that they're on their phone for 3 to 5+ hours a day. So we have a lot of technology kind of uses going on, which is also part that drives some of our work, especially in the health ed classroom. Similar to the data that we're seeing with the middle school students, we're seeing a very body positive type light with our students. 39% of our students say that they feel like they're about right with their weight, and 23% feel like they're slightly overweight, but the other gamuts are very, very slim percentages of people feeling they're maybe too underweight or too overweight and body conscious. We have 60% of our students that said that they have actually used exercise and diet, though, to try to maintain their weight. So whether this can be looked at as a positive or a negative, that kind of is like a more deeper dive, but 60% of our students are kind of looking at maintaining their weight in some way. And then in the past week, we had 55% of our students that said they at least 1 day a week, up to 5 days a week, participate in 60 minutes of exercise, which is kind of a big deal for our students to be able to participate in that kind of intense kind of workout or exercise. Sleep, same with as our middle school. 41% of our students are getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep, which is pretty good compared to what maybe our conceptions are of what our students are getting. Could it improve? Absolutely, but it is a pretty good number based on some of maybe the preconceived notions that some people may have. Also, 21% of our students have jobs and responsibilities outside of the school at the high school level. Now, when it comes further to physical health, why do we think students use illegal substances? At the high school level, it changes. And this has been kind of the same trend again as our middle school over the years. The biggest reasons: to relieve stress and have fun. So again, this is kind of a guiding nature of our health ed curriculum. If students are looking in ways to utilize these things to have fun, what are some things that we can do and teach students to have fun that don't involve substances and whatnot? The other kind of data that kind of sticks out a little bit is 76% of our students have tried a vape within the first, between 13 and 16 years old. So it kind of teeters. It doesn't make sense on looking at it based on our data from our middle school level, but it almost seems like that transition from middle school into high school is where our students are really starting to maybe delve into the stuff. But then also, on the other end, only 15% of our students at the high school level have reported ever using a vape. So looking into the data a little bit more and analyzing it further is probably what's going to be needed. Also, 38% at the high school say that they've seen someone vape. When it comes down to obtaining products, again, 42% of our students at the high school level either got it from someone over 18 or they borrowed it if they're not of age to purchase. And these are, the numbers for 42% are actually out of the 129 kids that said they vaped in the first place. So these numbers do look higher, but it's out of that 129, not that 1,000 of students that we've had. And then when it comes to marijuana, these percentages are a little bit higher at the high school level at 10% and edibles at 8% of our students. Then at the high school level, I also included some alcohol questions because at the middle school level, these were kind of insignificant numbers. But at the high school level, we have 12% of our high school students have said they've ever had alcohol other than a few sips. So it is specified in the data, like not just, oh, I had a sip of wine at church, or I had a sip of wine at dinner one day because my mom let me or my dad let me. It's more than a few sips. 12% of our students said that they have had more than a few sips of alcohol. 65% of our students have said that they've tried alcohol between the ages of 13 and 16. So again, kind of seeing the same trend with that vaping number. And then this was in addition, a little modification to the presentation that was submitted the other day and was updated this morning, was decided to include a statistic about binge drinking in our schools. Only 23% of our students said that they've had 4 or more drinks on 1 or 2 days in the last 30 days. So it is obviously higher than it should be because drinking alcohol at that age is illegal. But maybe compared to our perceptions and some perceptions on TV and in television that everybody does it, it's 23% of our students. Only 29 students out of those kids that said they had alcohol have actually, that do binge drink, similar to what we may see on television shows. Lastly, the last few things with our mental health. Bullying at the high school level, the numbers have dropped significantly. Bullying online has dropped to 7%. Bullying at school, 13%. And one of the really reassuring numbers that kind of sticks out at this level is 83% of our students said that outside of school they have a trusted adult they can go to. And at the inside of schools, 69%. So whether this is developmental adolescence of middle school versus high school, whether it's the resources that we have in the buildings, or just the students at the middle school level learning about these supports and then them transitioning with them into the high school, we have more positive growth in this area when it comes to these things. Lastly, again, with the suicide and the severe mental health, luckily the numbers go down at the high school level, still not as much, they should be 0. But 33% of our high school students have said they feel helpless or hopeless for more than 2+ weeks. 11% have considered suicide. 7% have actually made a plan. And 16, again, this number needs to be way higher, 16% have talked to somebody about these things or talked to a professional. So the last thing that was also in addition was, and this is another area of my focus this year specifically, is we have wonderful connections with MGH. They actually help compile this data and whatnot, but one of the biggest things we have is we have a health center right at the high school. The high school kids were asked about the health center, and only 40% of our students said that they were actually aware of the health center here, and only 7% of the students have actually accessed it. So this is a goal of mine, knowing the relationships that I've had with people at MGH, knowing and hearing from some of those people that it hasn't been utilized over the last few years as well. Like, how do we promote this a little bit more, especially to support some of the numbers and some of the things that we're seeing. The implications for our work. So this is really here to continue to modify and help us adjust the curriculum that's happening at our health ed levels. It's here to help us strengthen our relationships with the community, whether it's Revere, whether it's some of the other mental health supports like North Suffolk. Try to develop some new partnerships. How can we grow and expand on our health resources, and then collaborate with building administrators to develop some of these plans. I've been doing a lot of work with Chris Bowen at the high school level regarding some of their tiered support systems. Some of the things that we are highlighting, there's some amazing work already happening. At the high school, our RHS health teachers are now collaborating with our adjustment counselors and social workers to bring in, whether it's the NAN project, also North Suffolk, to come talk to those students in those 10th grade classes about mental health and about some of the services that they can provide outside of maybe the schools. We also have a great resource this year for our administrators and our support staff, Emily LaPiccolo at North Suffolk. She is willing to be that bridge between our school and getting services to our students. Enough of a willingness that she's given our administration her cell phone number, her email, and everything that we can personally contact her in need of things. Also, we've increased our counselor staffing. We have at least 2 counselors at every school in the district, except for one. We have one at the Lincoln. However, our adjustment counselors and support staff have now increased significantly over the last few years, as well as we're working on highlighting and improving how we can increase the accessibility to our parents and our students about these services. So highlighting whether it's a counselor's corner at an elementary school where students know who the counselor is and how to access them, or whether it's at the high school level where there's been conversations about actually including not only the guidance counselor on on a student's schedule, but also who is their assigned social worker, so they know without even physically meeting them who this person is that they could possibly go to for resources. So, thank you. It's a lot.
Awesome job. Awesome job.
Any members have any questions or comments? Mrs. Rizzo and then Ms. Milbury.
Thank you, Jill. I want to say great presentation, but it's kind of saddening too, in some instances.
Yeah.
Will you be bringing this up at our health and wellness meeting next week?
Yes, yeah. We wanted to make sure that we presented it to the school committee first before releasing any of the other information to any of
And
the other.
is there any way maybe to have someone from the NAN project or even Emily from North Suffolk join that group?
Absolutely,
Oh, great.
yeah. I think we may have Emily already on the invite. I have to double check on that. So,
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Ms. Milbury Ellis.
Thank you. Thank you, Jill, for that presentation. That was really informative. I have a quick question. I'm just wondering, are there any noteworthy discrepancies in numbers between the middle schools?
I didn't get a chance to dive into the individual middle schools yet. I kind of have only looked at, in this data, we have like about 300 and something pages of data. So I really just looked at the male, female for this, but over the next few months, now that we've actually shared it with you guys, like being able to work with our adjustment counselors, our health teachers, and sit down and actually analyze it further, whether it's equitable differences between ethnicities or at the school levels and whatnot, and really using that to maybe drive, if it's a school level, maybe it's a difference in maybe health ed curriculum in one building versus another, or support staff, like do we have access in one building versus another? So, yeah, but I haven't gotten a chance. It's a lot of information, and it's really helpful to be able to dive into it with a group of people, but we wanted to present it to the committee first before we actually shared this data. I've done some deeper dives with the 2019 data with some people in the past, and we've seen some discrepancies with whether it's ethnicity and access and whatnot. So I'm curious to see what will happen with this
And do
information.
you recall, I don't expect you to have this memorized, but I'm
Yeah.
just curious, with respect to the students who reported feeling sadness and suicidal thoughts?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just assuming that that's post-COVID. Do you have any data from prior to COVID?
I
whether-
can't remember the numbers, but it's definitely lower.
okay.
It was, mental health was still on the radar, but it was definitely lower than I feel like this 33% and whatnot. Like that was, looking at this data was shocking.
It was shocking.
So, but it has been a kind of a trend even prior to COVID, but we knew that it was probably going to be exacerbated with the situation. And it definitely, that's the one thing that's, the concept of suicide and planning and stuff, those questions are definitely higher than what they were in the past.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
Any other members? Ms. Franti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jill, great presentation. How long did you give the students to answer this survey?
So at the I know at the middle school level, because I was there last year, they had their advisory block at the Garfield to take the survey. It also required extending the advisory block, so it was initially 25 minutes, and I believe they extended it for another 10, 15 minutes, because at that level, a lot of the students have questions and whatnot, like, well, how do I answer this one, or like, what does this mean? So I know that they gave about 35 minutes at our level. I'm not too sure at the high school level how much time they were granted.
It was similar, Michael. So if we needed to extend advisory at the high school or city lab, we did.
And my other question, just obviously you haven't been able to look at them. Are you surprised by any of the numbers on middle school and high school?
I'm actually surprised at the middle school level and at the high school level for our substance use, especially when it comes to the vaping and marijuana. But conversations that I've had with people regarding this stuff is like, well, truthfulness. Are students really believing that this is anonymous and that we're not going to hunt them down based on their responses? But also, are we perceiving this, but is it just the same group of people that are getting in trouble that make us feel like it's a lot more than what it is? But I feel like the number just seemed, it's one that we're kind of questioning as a group, like, okay, we need a little bit more, maybe anecdotal data of what's happening in the schools regards to discipline and students and who is actually finding or possibly getting in trouble for things. Oh, that's mine. Oh, that's. Yep, that's mine.
And Jill, my last question is, are you surprised that there were more middle school students that did the survey versus the high school?
Yeah, well, no, actually, no.
No?
I'm going to say no, just because at the middle school level, our advisory period is like a mandated period at the very beginning of the morning, and there is an isolated time. With looking at our attendance rates and things like that of the previous school year, I'm kind of not surprised that more of our middle school students took it. It was actually an even amount. We were kind of looking at the data, and the same amount of middle school students and the same amount of high school students took it, but there's a significant amount of more high school students. So,
All right, thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other members? Okay, great. Oh, Ms. Tai, sorry.
Just a side question, I'm very familiar with Revere Cares and the wonderful work that that's been doing for so many years in Revere. But I don't know the group called the I Decide, and I'd like a little information on that, please.
So the I Decide partnership is just coming about this year at the middle school level. It's been utilized to a certain extent at the high school level in the realm of when a student has been caught vaping or utilizing a substance on school property. There's been kind of an intervention there. At the middle school level, we're still in the developmental process of it. But students actually tomorrow, I know at the Garfield, are taking their initial kind of survey. If parents have chose to opt them in, there was an opt-out option as well. And the initial survey is run by MGH, where they're just collecting kind of data regarding substance use and whatnot. And then that's kind of just for their research. The I Decide part is then based on what the principals and the administration want in their buildings. They are going to choose a team that is going to be trained in this kind of intervention of student gets in trouble for vaping on student property or using substances. There's going to be a team and a group that will come together to help that student. And then there's also an option with MGH that there can be deeper conversation with a counselor at MGH if that parent and that child chooses to. So it's in the works. At the high school level, it's just been kind of used as like a little diversion program. But at the middle school level, they're really looking, because anecdotally, in what they've seen over the years and the trends at the middle school level, vaping and substance use has gone up. So they're looking at a way to support the students and trying to intervene before a problem becomes maybe even worse. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
And I'll just add, I think those types of partnerships really speak to the importance of the advisory block for two reasons. So we can have large presentations for a large body of students, but if a student needs a discrete intervention, they're not being pulled out of academic time to get that intervention. Right now, we have it at 2 of the 3 middle schools, and the hope is that we're going to get all 3 with an advisory space, because much of what Jill presented is tackled in that, during that time.
Thank you.
Any other members? No? Thank you. Great work.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Jill. Should I go on? Okay. So the next item on the superintendent's report is the professional development offerings, which I sent you all today. And I'm not going to read through them. I did want to share them with the committee. They're all, I'm sure you'll see, focused on the initiatives in the district improvement plan around deeper learning, around centering students in our instruction, competency-based learning, equity, and all of those pieces. It's exported from a Google form that all of the administrators added to. And so if you try to look at it on paper, it might be a little bit hard to see. I would suggest you look at it online, because you can enlarge it and really dive into what's being offered where. There's a page for each of the schools, and then there's a district page as well. But I'll go on to the next item, which is the MCAS results. I'm going to share my screen again. And of course, all of the testing results are available on the DESE website. So if you wanted to look at in more detail at a particular grade or a school or whatever, all of that information is right on the website. But I just wanted to highlight a few pieces for the committee. And the first thing I want to highlight is our overall achievement. And I mean, it's mixed. I'm going to say that it's mixed. But overall, it's pretty good. And what I tried to show in the first table here is that in the two blue rows are the percentage of students who met or exceeded expectations in each subject area test last year compared to this year. So I think a trend that you'll notice is that our ELA grades went down across the board. And that we feel like is due to the disruption in the teaching of reading and literacy. That's often, a challenge, but we are working on it. But you'll notice that in math and science, interestingly, almost across the board, we had increases in the percentage of kids who scored either achieved the goal or exceeded the goal. So that's pretty exciting for us. I mean, there's definitely still more room. If I look at 7th grade math, it's great that we went from 19% to 22%, but that's still low. We need more kids than that, either meeting or exceeding expectations. And then we also looked at the percentages of students who are failing the exams. And again, here there was some great news, almost across the board, with the exception of 5 assessments. We reduced the number of kids who are failing. And so that's demonstrating progress as well. Again, any student failing is not good enough for us. So there's definitely still room for growth here, but we are headed in the right direction. And that's actually what the next table demonstrates as well, is we compared our growth on each exam from 2021 to 2022. And here we can say across the board, our growth percentiles increased. And just as a refresher for those who haven't looked at those growth definitions in a couple of years, normal growth is expected in the 40th to 60th percentile. So what we're seeing here is definitely some normal growth. We don't have a lot of numbers that are up above that, but what it shows is that our students are doing as well or a little bit better than their peers in other districts with their performance last year compared to this year. Our 4-year graduation rate is up, which is fantastic. It went from 74.5% to 83.6%, but our dropout rate also went up. It went from 2.7% up to 3.8%. So that's something that we need to focus on and pay attention to. And I feel confident with Mr. Bowen and his team that they'll be working closely on that metric especially. When we consider our achievement compared to other districts, this is what DESE shows in their comparable school district, their DART data. So they've identified the other districts that you see on the screen here: Brockton, Chelsea, Chicopee, Everett, Lowell, Malden, Marlborough, Milford, and Waltham as our similar peers. And we're right about the middle of the pack. So Revere scores are highlighted in orange. And I went through and highlighted in green where other districts performed better than we did. So like in grade 3 through 8 ELA, Malden, Marlborough, Milford, and Waltham all outscored us in terms of the percentage of kids who are meeting or exceeding expectations. And we outscored these other districts that are listed here. You can take a look at that data, but roughly half of the blocks are green, indicating that we are right around the middle of that pack. We certainly don't want to be middle fiddle, and so we will be working to improve those scores.
Technical term?
Yeah. But I think that some of the brightest data that we saw this year is our participation in advanced coursework. And I sent this to the committee last week because we were sharing it with the high school staff. And we've really seen a reduction in the gaps between different demographics of students taking advanced coursework. And I want to point out, so that it's not confused with AP coursework, that the Department of Education has a specific definition for advanced coursework. It's on their website if anybody wants to look at it. It includes AP courses, but it also includes other college-level coursework like dual enrollment and IB. We don't have an IB program, but they're all courses of that nature. It's basically when kids take college-level work in high school. And so these are the percentage of kids in different categories who completed at least one advanced course before they graduated, either in their junior or their senior year. And you can see that I compared the data from before we started detracking back in 2019 to where we were this year. And I am thrilled with the increase in the number of kids who are completing advanced coursework. And I really feel strongly that it's associated with us lifting those limits of, well, you can't take AP unless you are in honors, and you don't take honors because you weren't in honors in middle school. And, you know, all of those narratives that kind of pigeonhole kids into particular classes. And I think that this is one set of data that's showing us, again, that that might be effective. It's 1 year of data. We've been showing a trend increasing in 2020, 21, 22. So we'll continue to monitor the data and see that it closes. But we were able to, for our kids who are economically disadvantaged, in 2019, there was a 20 percentage point gap between how many of them were taking advanced coursework and how many of our white students were taking advanced coursework. And now that's reduced to 7%. Likewise, our high need students, and that's kids who are either economically disadvantaged or students with disabilities or EL or more than one of those three categories. That's who makes up the high needs, and we closed that gap from 24% to 9%. So I think those are some of the more interesting pieces of information.
Any members have any questions? Mrs. Rizzo.
As far as the detracting, I'm really impressed with those numbers. And I will say, at a workshop for students this past weekend, it was like over 100 students, and they were in breakout sessions. One was on student achievement in MCAS. And we as adults do not participate, but we like to walk around and hear what they have to say. And there was a group, there were students from Marlborough, Worcester, and Plymouth talking about how they wish they didn't have grades and how they had talked to family members in other areas that have been doing this and feel that it's the best way for student achievement. And I was kind of really impressed. Like, I wanted to throw my 2 cents in, but I kept saying, I'm the adult, it's their workshop, I stay out of it. But it was nice to hear these students already discussing it and have brought it up to their own advisory groups. So it's nice to see those numbers go up. It kind of gives some meaning that it's working.
Thank you, Mrs. Rizzo. Any other comments? Okay, we'll continue on.
Okay. Escape this, sorry. The last item on the superintendent's report was listed as a kindergarten position for the Beachmont School. And that was before we had our estimation from Mr. Cruz about the carry forward amounts of money and some other conversations that I had with other district members. The situation at the Beachmont School is pretty urgent in my mind, because the enrollment there has gone up so much at the kindergarten level that the class sizes are just exploding. So I'm just trying to find my information that I had the data written on. Give me 1 second. Yeah, they're up. Yeah, I think that's right. They went up from like 47 to 68 kids, and because the Beachmont is a small school, that has a significant impact. There are only 2 kindergarten classes, so adding 20 kids adds 10 to each class. And so Mr. Friesen had approached me a few weeks ago to say that we got to do something here because the classes are just too big. And we talked about some different options. And one of the things that he's leery about doing is splitting the classes, because the kids are now used to their teachers and the parents are used to the teachers. And so what we thought that we could do is hire a 3rd kindergarten teacher who could co-teach with the two existing teachers and float among the two rooms to give them both assistance, particularly around the literacy block, helping the kids learn about literacy. There are some paras that are working in those classrooms as well, but having a licensed certified teacher who can really step in with those two existing teachers, we think would be really helpful. And they're still open to other structural ideas as well. If in the course of the school year they decide that they want to do some more breakout work, they can do that. So it might be that they're taking the two classes and splitting them into 3 groups, and really specifying the instruction for particular groups of kids, utilizing these 3 teachers throughout the day. So that, of course, was the original ask that I, not knowing where we stood financially, that I wanted to come to the committee with. And I know that Mr. Ferranti is scheduling a budget subcommittee meeting to talk about the exact parameters of the budget. But since then, some other ideas have emerged on how we might spend additional funds that I was hoping I could just lay out tonight, and then when the budget subcommittee has their meeting, they can discuss and make a recommendation to the whole committee. And I did share these ideas with all of you this afternoon, but just to run through them quickly. City Lab has an opportunity to work with Digital Ready and some artists who consult with them to make a couple of murals in 2 separate stairwells in the building. It's a really cool idea where the murals will have QR codes that will hold stories of our students. And so anybody coming into the building can hold up, and they have people who do this kind of work and do this kind of art and write these kinds of stories will work with our students and help, and they'll co-develop. Yeah, so it's a pretty cool project. They need $10,000 to do the whole project. Dr. Mulligan is applying for a grant, but the application won't go through until December. And the possibility is that that will pay back $5,000. So it's still an ask for $10,000, but we might get $5,000 of it back. At the middle school level, Dr. Costa and Josh Miranda, who oversees our robotics program, is asking to expand a more formal Saturday program that we funded through grants previously. And this would be a program, a robotics program open to all middle school students in the city. It's going to happen on Saturdays, most likely here at Revere High School, where we can kind of double dip on, there'll already be people in the building, so we won't have to, have added expenses there. And they estimate between having somebody who can coordinate at the middle school level, some supplies and materials they'll need, and some custodial overtime that might come into play, about $4,800. So that's a second program I would love to engage our kids in the city in. The third one I think is the most exciting, since we've brought back a fine arts director, and that is to actually have a dramatic musical production. And so there's a lot that needs to go into this first production because we don't have the infrastructure or the supplies or materials right now to put on a major production. But Kelly Williams, who's our new fine arts director, hopes that when we have this initial investment, and really it's not all that much money, it's about $20,000 that she estimates she needs to make this first production. She anticipates that we'll make back about $8,000 between ticket sales and advertisements in the program and all of that. My suggestion would be, and I talked to Matt Cruz about this today, taking that $8,000 and putting it into, there's already a fine arts revolving account, but making a sub-account for productions only. And so this again is an ask of $20,000. It's really probably like a $10,000 to $12,000 cost, but we'd like to have the full 20 and kind of seed that revolving account so that future productions will start to pay for themselves. The other thing is that there'll be some expenses this time because we don't have that infrastructure right now, that as we build the drama program, kids will do. So eventually, we'll have a group of kids who will take a class on set design, who will build the set for whatever play we're doing that year. Right now, we don't have that, so right now we have to hire people to do set design. Does that make sense? So we're hoping that this will seed the whole program and we'll be able to build it out for everybody. And then I mentioned the kindergarten teacher at the Beachmont, and that's where it was 49 students, they're up to 65. Do you want me to, I just have two other quick ones? Okay. And then the other position was one that I don't know if you really heard Jill mention it, but she talked about the number of social workers that we have at each school, and that we have one elementary school, the Lincoln, that only has one social worker. And so that would be another request to bring them up to par with the rest of the schools and give them a second social worker. And then some other ideas. One was the teacher support that we talked about a little bit earlier. I would like to engage a team of teachers to really talk about exactly what they think would be the right way to do this, and then give some freedom at the building level or the classroom level to decide if we wanted to put a certain amount of money aside for each teacher. But then some schools might decide to pool it, like the third grade at the Hill School might decide that they want to put their money together and do one thing for the third grade team, and the second grade at the Paul Revere might decide to each do it individually because they all want different things. And I was thinking that we could give them a little bit of leeway to do that. And then the last idea, and we definitely would need to talk a lot more about this, but we met with our usual monthly meeting with the paraprofessionals union yesterday, and we were talking about the extreme challenge that we've been having, as others have, in finding paras to work. And the idea was floated to maybe do a pilot with just a couple of paras. They would be already paras who work with us, but for a pilot for this year only, well, for this year for now, and then we see how it works, and if it works and if it's valuable, we can budget for next year. But to create a couple of full-time para positions in each school, which would give a little bit more stability in the school, which would also help the classroom teachers and help the paraprofessionals. We anticipate that that would cost about $480,000. That's anticipating that all of those people decided they wanted a health care package. If they didn't, it would be significantly less than that. But so those were just the ideas that we had and that I wanted to put forward to the Ways and Means Subcommittee, and thought it would be valuable to talk openly about those ideas and then get into more detail with Mr. Ferranti and the subcommittee when that meeting's scheduled.
Great. Any members? Ms. Milbury-Ellis.
I just have a quick question about the kindergarten position. Is this something that we're thinking maybe next year, this would be a full-time position where this person would have their own classroom and we'd break up into 3 classes?
Correct, yep.
Okay, so what we just heard, the solutions or the possible structures were for temporary
For
this year.
temporary for this year, where
Okay.
students have already established relationships with their classmates and their teachers. We want to kind of keep that structure, but still be open-minded about how we can capitalize on having 3
The third
teachers
one.
at that grade level.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mr. Chairman. to
Mr.
Dr.
Ferranti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To Dr. Kelly, when we were talking with the Paris contract and we brought up the idea of the full-time positions, and nobody even wanted to consider it. Now, all of a sudden, we got a change of attitude here. Maybe it helps us hire more people that obviously we're in a shortage of. I mean, it sounds like a good idea. I'm not really sure what we should do with it. Well, you know, we got to talk about it, but
It would definitely require some negotiations, and I believe that it was Stacy and Susan that were on the para? No? Oh, Michael, okay. So we would need to resume with them and talk about the details and what does it mean for it to be a pilot? So do people understand that if it's a pilot for this year, they would go back to their part-time position for next year unless the committee decided to fund those positions longer? I just do think that it's a way that can bring a little bit of stability across the schools where, and maybe Dr. Galucci can speak to the challenges of the revolving door of paraprofessionals lately.
Yeah, I think even if we look at the employment page from the Cow meeting, there were 9 paraprofessional hires. I believe there was either 9 resignations or retirements. And that's been pretty typical. A bulk of hiring and a bulk exiting each month, and we can never make that traction that we need to provide the full support.
And we still have about 12 open positions.
Yes, probably more.
Yeah. Somebody made the comment to me that Dr. Galucci is advertising for paraprofessionals every 20 minutes. So I know.
Mrs. Rizzo.
I will say, like everything else, the paras is just not a Revere issue. It's everywhere, whether it's full-time, whether it's with benefits, not with benefits. It's just a constant issue like everything else. And I know you said you have to negotiate with the para-union. Is there any thought given on, when you said you would hire within, would any thought given, like, would any of those paras be able to apply?
And so that's one of the things that we do have to negotiate. And in our preliminary talk, which it was one conversation that we had yesterday, they were open to saying that there could be some leeway in who was selected to do it. It wouldn't have to be by strict seniority. It could be, is there somebody who's really connecting with a particular classroom that's struggling? Then maybe that person would have an advantage in getting the full-time position.
Because we want the right person for
Exactly.
that classroom, for that individual child,
Yep,
and the educator itself. So I'd like to see it,
yeah.
but
So-
again, talk is needed.
Yeah, and if we feel like that's an investment that we want to make for this year, then we can start negotiating. And if we come to a conclusion, then we'll do it. And if not, then we'll carry forward that money to next year.
Mr. Franti.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Have you run this idea by them at all, or is this like the first time anybody's hearing about this?
We met with them yesterday. Was it yesterday? My days are confusing, yeah. Yesterday, or Monday, we met, yeah, yesterday. And this was part of the discussion we had, was about the challenges of hiring and not being able to find people. And they said, well, what about this? And we said, I don't know, you know. But I said that I would mention it here tonight, and that if there was an appetite for it, then we could pursue it.
Mr. Kingston.
I know for a fact that we've lost paras to other districts because they've gone full-time. So I think offering a full-time would be, might be help you staffing and also help keep people that may have gone elsewhere. Gee, they're hiring full-time over there and they go over there. So I think this is great and I'm very happy to hear it. Thank you.
Great. Any other members? Oh, okay. We will now move on to the report of subcommittees. Policy Subcommittee.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Franti.
I want to make a motion, because we're going to have a Ways and Means, but we have to make a motion and accept it by the committee that we put 2 items on the calendar. One would be the apparel for staff, and the other one would be the list that Dr. Kelly gave us to look at, to see what we're going to approve if everything goes forward. And I'm making that motion as the chairman of the subcommittee.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Franti, seconded by Mr. Kingston. We'll do a roll call.
Mrs. Bronson Rizzo,
Yes?
Mr. Ferranti,
Yes.
Mrs. Gravellisi,
Yes.
Mr. Kingston,
Yes.
Mrs. Milbury Ellis,
Yes.
Ms. Ty,
Yes.
Mayor Arrigo.
Yes. Okay. The report of subcommittees.
Mr. Mayor?
Mrs. Rizzo.
The Policy Subcommittee met today at 4:45. We discussed the JICEA policy for student dress code, and we are recommending that we vote as a committee to amend the dress code to correspond with an act prohibiting discrimination based on natural and protective hairstyles. So move.
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Bronson Rizzo,
Yes?
Mr. Ferranti,
Yes.
Mrs. Gravellisi,
Yes.
Mr. Kingston,
Yes.
Mrs. Milbury Ellis,
Yes.
Ms. Ty,
Yes.
Mayor Arrigo.
Yes.
Along with the policy, we are recommending to accept the new wording in the handbook to correspond with the same Act of 2022 and the dress code policy. So moved?
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Bronson Rizzo,
Yes?
Mr. Ferranti,
Yes.
Mrs. Gravellisi,
Yes.
Mr. Kingston,
Yes.
Mrs. Milbury Ellis,
Yes.
Ms. Ty,
Yes.
Mayor Arrigo.
Yes.
And finally, we also discussed student representation on our committee, which is policy JIBA. And the only change to it is we have presently have one student representative. We are recommending that two student representatives be added to our school committee. So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Mayor, just a clarification.
Ms. Ty.
Oh, sorry. Stacy, just the way that you worded it, we're not talking about three, we're not adding two and one. Just-
No, I'm
it's a
sorry. We
total of-
currently have one, and we will be changing it to two.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay. Roll call.
Mrs. Bronson Rizzo,
Yes?
Mr. Ferranti,
Yes.
Ms. Gravellisi,
Yes.
Mr. Kingston,
Yes.
Mrs. Milbury Ellis,
Yes.
Ms. Ty,
Yes.
Mayor Arrigo.
Yes. Move to motions?
No,
Or you still have one
conference.
more?
I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
Mr. Rizzo.
You still have my voice. So the MASC conference is coming up in November, the first week in November. It's MASC and MASS. It is a very good conference with plenty of workshops and plenty of knowledge to gain. And I think Dr. Kelly can agree with me. It's well worth it.
Question.
Well, thank you.
I do agree, it's a great conference.
I know it's hard for people to get down and take time off from their other jobs, but, there's so much more to gain by attending any of these. If anything, if someone can come down Thursday, there's many workshops on that day. And I think Dr. Kelly said on Friday, there was supposed to be a really great speaker coming. So we do have money in the budget for anyone that might want to come down, whether it's the day, whether it's overnight. Please think about it. But in the meantime, we also have a delegate assembly, which is on the Wednesday night, and I am asking for permission to be the representative from Revere Schools to be the delegate for our district.
Madam,
Ms. Ty.
not madam.
No
Mr.
problem.
Stacy did. Mr. Mayor, please.
Ms. Ty.
May I make a motion that this school committee select, name, and support Stacy Bronson Rizzo as a delegate to the MASC, MASS convention?
Okay.
Second. Second.
Motion made by Ms. Ty, seconded by Mr. Ferranti. Roll call.
Mrs. Bronson Rizzo,
Yes?
Mr. Ferranti,
Yes.
Ms. Gravellisi,
Yes.
Mr. Kingston,
Yes.
Mrs. Milbury Ellis,
Yes.
Ms. Ty,
Yes.
Mayor Arrigo.
Yes.
Next is on the resolutions, and may I say, unfortunately, many of our constituents and school community do not know what our actual responsibilities are. And one of our more important ones is advocacy. It is something that I am very proud of this committee that takes part in many resolutions and trying to better not only our students, but students of the Commonwealth. I think my colleagues here and throughout the state that we will, I can't even read my own writing. You should be lucky I'm not talking off the top of my tongue. But anyhow, hopefully we can put forward these resolutions. I ask for a vote on each one separately in case anyone has any questions, and also to give me to use my discretion in case any amendments come up. So I'm going to start with Resolution 1 is regarding sanctuary laws for transgender students. We passed this resolution back in April, and it is, I'm just going to ask, everyone already read them over, so if anyone had any questions, Ms. Ty?
Just a point
Ms.
of
Chai.
information, Mr. Mayor, if I may. I was under the impression that that the convention had, at some point, or some organization, had already taken a stand against using Native American logos and team names and so forth. And as a matter of fact, I mentioned once about if you write up Route 1 and you see that, you realize how prominent that is and how problematic that is as well. So I know we have talked about it, but I don't recall whether we ever actually made a motion or not. Didn't have
Ms.
time.
Ty, this resolution is on the sanctuary laws for transgender students.
Oh, I know, but you said if there are any questions, so I'm asking you on that particular one.
On the first one?
It's number 2.
Oh, I didn't get there yet. I was on 1.
I know, but you said, does anybody have any questions on any of them? And I said, yes.
Okay. Okay.
However,
So-
I'm perfectly happy.
No.
Doesn't make any difference to me.
So on Resolution 2, to increase the maximum balance allowed by the Special Education Reserve Fund, that is on the Special Education Fund, that we go from 2% to 5%.
Oh, I'm sorry, I had the wrong number down, didn't read my own writing, it's number 9.
Oh, you sound like me. Anyone have any questions on the current price of special education? Seeing none, going to number 3, membership of the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. Right now, they do not allow for any educator or school committee member to sit on this board, and this is requesting that. Any questions on that? Number 4, preserving local governance of Massachusetts school. This is something that I really take to heart. When we talk about other districts, we have, I was going to say Lawrence, but it's not Lawrence. Lowell. No. Oh, my goodness. Well, there's Holyoke, Fitchburg, or South, yeah.
Southborough and
Lawrence and Holyoke are in receivership. Receivership was supposed to be a 3 to 5 year procedure. Holyoke is going into its 10th year, and with the state taking it over, it has not raised any scores or the culture of the schools at all. What I am proud to say is one of the schools is going to be put on a pilot program and put back under the city. So that's a head start. As far as Lawrence goes, all those school committee members took the charting of the course to get ready because they will be coming out of receivership soon. So this is just to support the other districts, and hopefully none of our fellow districts go into receivership without the assistance that they need. Number 5, personal financial literacy education. That's a given. It's needed. It's always been needed. Even if we're doing a little, we need the backing of more. And then, is this the one you're talking about, Ms. Ty? Is number 6, establishment of a regional school assessment reserve fund. No, it doesn't have anything to do with us, but when we ask other districts to support us, we want to reciprocate both ways. I don't see the one you were talking about.
Oh, well, you just sent it out in an email today, so I was, all right, maybe I just read it today.
Well, does anyone have any questions on
But
this?
I just had a question about, it doesn't make any difference. My question was, we have discussed it before, and I thought we came to some resolution before that we did not approve of that. So, but if we need to vote again, oh, we'll vote again.
Will everyone give me the freedom to vote using my discretion if there's any amendments?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Ms. Rizzo, do we need to take a formal vote on all of them? Okay, motion to, do we have to do each one individually, or?
No, we can do it all at once. I just wanted to give each one.
Yep, a breakdown, definitely. Okay. Is there a motion to vote on?
I make the motion to vote on the 6 resolutions.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ferranti, seconded by Ms. Ty. Roll call.
Ms. Bronson Rizzo,
Yes?
Mr. Ferranti,
Yes.
Mrs. Gravellisi,
Yes.
Mr. Kingston,
Yes.
Mrs. Milbury Ellis.
Yes?
Ms. Ty,
Yes.
Mayor Arrigo.
Yes. Move on to motions. I'll read the motion. Motion by Mrs. Rizzo that the budgets are reviewed and approved by the school committee. Therefore, any grants need to come to the committee for approval, and requesting quarterly financial report on how grants are used and the expenditure of funds to the public, transparent, and have appropriate checks and balances. Mrs. Rizzo.
So this motion, a few years back, we went through and asked for quarterly reports, financial reports, and it's been working well. We are more enlightened about what is being done and how it's being used. We have more of an idea. So I feel like educationally, it helps us to know what we are talking about. And the same thing with grants. We approve grants, and it's part of the budgetary, and so at least we can learn what the grants are about. I know for myself, sometimes I might hear a grant, and I don't know what it really is about, and I think it just gives us more knowledge on what we're voting on.
Ms. Gravellisi.
Thank you, Mayor Arrigo. Just a question, Stacy, where it says the grants need to come to the school committee. For instance, just a few minutes ago, Dr. Kelly was telling us how Dr. Mulligan's applying for a grant for the mural. Josh Miranda's applying for a grant for the robotics. So you would want them to come to us before they applied for these? I mean, that would be, make the process of grant,
No,
application.
they can apply for whatever grants, it's just supposed to come to us as an approval. Now, would anyone deny it and say no?
Right, okay.
But it's more of, it's budgetary, it goes right into the budget.
All right, I just wasn't
No,
sure
no.
with the wording.
There's so many grants out there that
Right.
it would be.
We don't want to slow down the process of them
Not slow
applying.
down, but it would not be beneficial to the system, period.
It would. Thank you.
Any other members?
So I think that
Kelly.
Mrs. Gravellisi just hit on a key piece of concern for me and for Matt Cruz. We talked about this. Right now, we have 25 federal grants across 3 different funding years. We have 2 state grants totaling $220,000, 1 private grant, and 9 revolving grants that we get typically from different entitlement grants. It's in 37 different accounts, and it's about $35 million that they're accounting for. And this would just add labor to that work. We do, as a routine process, come before you anytime we get a grant, like when Matt Costa got the $300,000 for the math instructional materials. We presented that, we said what we were going to spend the money on, et cetera. When Christina Porter got the Gleam grant, she's actually been back here twice to talk about it when she initially got it, and then to give an update. So it's a routine part of our behavior I feel like we were incredibly transparent with all of the ESSER grants, presenting them publicly in open meetings, even holding community input meetings so that the community could input what we spent those grants on. But the ESSER grants are a little bit different than most of the others, like the GLEAM grant that I mentioned for middle school literacy and the math materials grant. Those grants are structured so that we have to spend them the way they're designed. There is no discretion. We have to do what the granting organization tells us we can do with the money. The same thing happens like when we had the larger grants from Nellie Mae and other places. They're the ones who set up what the money is going to be spent on, and we have to present to them a grant proposal that meets all of their criteria in order to get the grant in the first place. So I feel like this is adding a layer of bureaucracy that's going to make it more challenging for us to, I guess I'll say, want to go after grants if we have to do the work of putting together reports quarterly on all of them. And it is a burden on an already overburdened system that I'm not quite sure what benefit it would bring, because I feel like we're already being forthcoming and giving initial reports when we get a grant, but then also follow-ups as the grant progresses and we see if they're working or not.
Mrs. Rizzo.
So the motion doesn't say anything about not being coming on being transparent. It's basically our jobs to know what grants are coming in. And not that any of us would question what the grants is for, but we have some knowledge of how it is going. I mean, it could be the grant 3/4 of the year down the road might not be working, or you might want to change it up a little. It's just for our knowledge of what grants we have, how they're going to benefit us. Again, like I said, no one here would say no to anything that came in. It's just for us to have an idea of what's going on.
Ms. Milbury Ellis.
So I'm hearing a couple of things, but I just want clarification. Is it the fact that these grants are budgetary and they're required to come before the school committee for approval?
Yes, they are.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so if that's the case, just because they haven't been coming before us in the past, there's no reason to continue with that practice. So I would support that if it's budgetary and is required to come before the school committee for approval.
And if it's the will of the committee, I can get more information on it so that I use the correct words and make sure I'm not making up things along the way, and bring it back next month. I have no problem with that either.
I would suggest that we send it to Ways and Means and have a conversation there. We have a meeting scheduled anyway, and we can discuss further, if that's okay with the chairman.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just
Yeah.
one quick question.
Ms. Francie.
Dr. Kelly, is it an inconvenience just to list what the grants are?
No, I believe that's something that we could easily,
I mean, I think that's, so
Print
now
out.
we know what grants where and how long it's for. I think that's more of the information than, they'll approve and, make the process work. Just a listing of quarterly grants, this is what we get, and so when it goes with the financial thing, now we know what the grants are. Is it easy enough to do?
yeah, and you get some of that already on the quarterly reports when you get the financials for any of the payrolls that are done through like Title I or Title III and those grants like that. But we haven't typically given that kind of a report on, I guess I'll call them non-entitlement grants, like the grants that we go out and hunt and apply for, which is a significant amount of money that is extra work that we are not required to do, that we do because we want to get as much as we can for these kids.
But I think just a listing of them that's all we're really looking for, that's all. Nothing else. We don't want to make the process any worse than what it is.
Yeah, I can ask Matt about that.
Thank you.
But in the meantime, I can get information and bring it to Ways and Means, so perhaps nothing has to be done.
Okay.
Well, was there a second to that motion? No, I don't think so. So
So-
you just withdraw the motion.
I withdraw my motion.
Okay.
Then you don't need to second anything, she's withdrawn. Yeah, she withdrawn, okay.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Rizzo has been withdrawn. We'll move on to old business. School committee email.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Mrs. Rizzo.
So we had talked earlier in this, earlier this year about having one school committee email. And the mayor had said we could also have an automatic response saying that we had received it. And I looked into a few others, and I gave each one of you a copy of perhaps what could be said as the automatic reply. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Ms. Gravellisi.
Thank you, Mayor Rigo. I mean, this would be great if a parent had a concern, but sometimes we're getting emails for, hey, come to trunk or treat, or, you know what I mean? There's a event at the school. So this auto-generated response doesn't really address all of that. It just addresses a concern. So I think it's just, like, to me, I feel like this would be a response if someone had a comment, complaint, or a problem that they want to resolve.
Well, again, it can be wordsmithed and changed around.
Ms. Milbury Ellis.
Yeah, I think that's an easy fix, Stacy, but we could just switch out the word concern for issue.
Yeah.
So if
Or
perhaps
something like
you or Ms. Ty can help rewrite whatever you want.
Other than that, I don't see any
No, everything else is fine.
issues with it.
Okay.
And then the second thing was on the transgender resolution, asked multiple times to put it on the website, and it still is not there, and it was in the hopes that our students and our community would know that we're there to support them.
Okay, any other members?
We voted this in April. We asked for it to be put on the website, and then last month, I had made mention that it wasn't on the website yet and asked, and it's not yet. There's just old information. So if we could look into the old business and,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Rizzo. Any new business from any members? Ms. Milbury Ellis.
Mr. Mayor, may I go back to old business?
Sure.
My apologies. I just wanted to ask Dr. Kelly if there was any progress made with the pilot program with the vocational?
Yes, there actually was. We met with Dave DeBarry, who's the superintendent of the VOC. He came down with a couple of people to meet with us. Did you notice that one of the students tonight who came actually attends the Saturday program that we
Yeah.
have there, so that was good.
Yeah.
And so they came down to look at the East Wing Conference Room to see if there was something that we could maybe do there for next year. And we are leaning toward, we still have to develop this, but we met with Mr. Bowen and folks from the high school team, looking to do an intro to electrical for kids who want to be electricians. They thought that would be the easiest, because they have the largest staff of electricians, more than their plumbers.
Equipment.
And that they said would be difficult, and that the equipment would be easier to get hands-on. So that's
great.
what we are leaning toward. And we're gonna go up and see their facility, electrical or plumbing? I forget now. Electrical, okay. We're gonna take a trip up to see their, facility in the coming weeks, and take a look at exactly what they have, and then we'll talk about, if we might need to do some kind of work. I know one thing they didn't like was the ceiling height in that room. But two things we can look at is what's under the ceiling, and can we lift it up that way? Because it is a drop ceiling like this. And the other thing that we were gonna take a look at is the old automotive shop, which already has a double height ceiling. So that's where we are with that, but our goal is to have a program ready to roll for September.
Awesome, that's great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Good news. Thank you for bringing that up, Ms. Milbury Ellis. Any new business for anyone? Okay. So we'll move into the next item, which is executive session. Just to be clear, we will not be coming back after adjournment of executive session, but the committee will be entering executive session to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than professional competence of an individual, or to discuss the discipline of or dismissal of or complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual. Motion to move into executive session?
Actually, Mr. Mayor, if I could, sorry, Danielle is texting me and saying, it's plumbing, please clarify, it's plumbing. Plumbing.
Okay. All right, motion to move into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Gravellisi. We'll have a roll call.
Mrs. Bronson Rizzo,
Yes.
Mr. Ferranti,
Yes.
Mrs. Gravellisi,
Yes.
Mr. Kingston,
Yes.
Mrs. Milbury Ellis,
Yes.
Ms. Ty,
Yes.
Mayor Arrigo.
Yes.